happens. Many of us are being hindered from operating in our full purpose because you're making it about you. And it's not about you. You are a part of something that is so much bigger than you.
'Cause you're so strong. I wanna be so strong. I wanna be just like you. I wanna be just like you. When I grow old. When I grow old.
So excited that you have decided to join me for another episode of my new podcast. Y'all, we've made it to episode 3. I am so thankful for each of you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for those of you who have been sharing and talking about the new podcast. I've already been getting some feedback from the other episodes, and I just want to tell you thank you. So are y'all ready to continue to take this journey of becoming our best selves? If you don't already know, I am Brittany Morton, your host. I am a speaker and a leader and a coach and an author. But the most important thing is I tell people all the time, I love God, I love people, and I am passionate about seeing you become the best you. And so this podcast has been created so that you can come and learn and we can grow together. I share a lot of my own personal experiences, things that I have learned over the years in hopes to encourage you, inspire you, and to give you some tools that you can use on your journey as well. So go ahead and get your notepad, girl. Go ahead, bro. I know some of the fellas tuning in too, so what's up? But today it's gonna get a little tight, okay? I'm gonna get all in your business, so do not tune and log off. I want you to stay on to the very end because I believe that this is a conversation that we need to have. The title of this episode is Stop Hiding. That's right, you heard it here first. Stop hiding. Now, I only tell y'all what I tell myself, okay? And so let's dig into it. So for those of you who do not know, I started a nonprofit 11 years ago, and it is very dear to my heart. It's called Saved in the City, and it is a ministry for women, and God has been so gracious to us. It started off on the campus of Alabama A&M, whoop, whoop, where I went to undergrad. And if you don't know, I ended up graduating from A&M, and I went back and worked there for 5 years. And I started this group. What I thought was just going to be a small group upstairs from my job has turned into a whole situation, okay? And so I started up there on my job with 5 ladies. I've been sharing y'all my story. I had just went through a bad breakup. And I had a lot of like young women coming to me that were experiencing a lot of the things that I was experiencing. Like they would be in my office, they would be calling me for advice. And y'all, in that season, I did not feel like I had any advice to give anyone. Have you ever been there where you feel like you're going through something in your life and you don't have much to give, but God has still put people in your path for you to encourage and inspire and talk about stuff? You're like, I'm going through this myself, and so that's what was happening. And so I started Saving the City back then, again, not thinking, I thought it was a hobby, and over the years it grew into something that is so phenomenal and has impacted so many women's lives across the world. And I celebrate that. I used to not celebrate that, but I've learned to celebrate that, so I celebrate that. So on that journey, you all, I remember it was like maybe about 5 years ago. I had transitioned from working full-time to running Saving the City full-time. And if you have any questions about that, I'm going to be doing an episode about how I did that and how I built the organization to a way that now we have employees. So I'm grateful for that. But I'll never forget, we had gotten an office space, which was just a really big deal considering this was something I started upstairs from my job. And I remember I was getting up, y'all, getting ready to go to our office. And I felt this nudge, and I felt like it was the Holy Spirit, and I felt like I needed to take the week off. Now, if there are any entrepreneurs or anybody that has a lot of things that they're responsible for, you know that anytime you're starting something, you have like 10 people jobs. So I was the founder, the marketing director, the social media manager. So me taking off a week, the accountant, everything. Me taking off a week, baby, that require a lot of trust and faith, okay? Because when it's just you and a small team, you're responsible for so much. But I really felt this urge to take off for a week, y'all, right? So I take off, and it was hard, but I took off that week. And so I never forget the first day I had an attitude. I'm sitting on the couch like, okay, I'm here. Like, God, what do you want to talk about? I thank God that God knows us. He knows our personalities, and He is not moved by my attitude, neither or yours. Okay, and so I was there, and I'll never forget this moment. I'm sharing with you this story because it's going to tie into what we're talking about today, of how we have to stop hiding and really begin to show up as our authentic selves. And so I remember I was like reading my Bible and doing journaling, what I do, and I don't remember everything that happened. But next thing I know, I was literally in my living room, bawling, crying on the floor. Again, I can't give you all the details because I don't remember how I got there. But I just know, next thing I know, I am literally on the floor crying, like bawling my eyes out. And I remember, and I don't really hear, God speaks to everybody differently. Sometimes it's through nature. Sometimes it's through sermons. Sometimes, and I don't really hear like audible voices. That's not my experience. But I'll never forget, I really felt this urge that it was time for me to do something different. It wasn't that what the work I had done wasn't, significant. It wasn't great, and I wasn't going to continue to do that. But I felt a call to do something different. And I think it's so interesting because I felt something really similar before I started Saving the City. Like in my life, anytime I'm getting ready to go to a new level, or God is requiring something new of me, or a season is getting ready to change, there's like this brokenness that I have to go through to really get to this new place, right? Because it's so easy for us to get comfortable in what we're doing and how things are going, and then there's a shift and you're like, okay, wait a minute. So I get to this place, you all, and I really feel like it's time, for this call is happening. And I'll never forget, I heard this voice that said, it's time for you to step over and step up. Let me say that again. I heard the voice because this is for you as well. It's time for you to step over and step up. Now, for me, the thing that I had been hiding behind was the brand that I had built. I felt like I had won. I was able to impact a whole lot of people, and nobody knew who I was. I was able to help build this brand that, women and even men and husbands and families were being blessed by, but no one knew who I was, and I felt safe there. Okay. And so for me to hear a call to say to step over and step up, y'all, I was terrified. Okay. And so I was crying because I said no. I'm like, no, I am good. I finally got to the place where I'm doing something I love. No one has to know my name. No one has to know who I am. No one has to see my face. People are being impacted and lives are being changed. That's what my prayer has always been for my life. So why do I have to do anything different? So y'all, I literally was having a meltdown. And I never forget, and I don't tell this story often because sometimes I'm afraid that people may not understand it. But I'm going to share this with you all because I feel that who this is for is going to resonate with you. And so for me, if you don't know my background, I am, a Christian, and my faith is a really big part of who I am. And it's that way because of where I feel like my journey, right? Where I've been and what I've experienced. And so you always hear me talk a lot, a lot of references about the word. But in that moment when I heard step up, step over, and step up, I told God, God, I don't want people to know me. I want them to know you. No one has to know my name. No one has to applaud me. I don't need a stage. I don't need a platform. I don't need a microphone. I know what you've done in my life. And I just want people to know you so you can do the same thing in their life. And you can find another way to do that. I don't have to step over and step nowhere, right? For you to get the glory. Like that was the conversation I was having. But the more I gave God a rebuttal, you all, the more he came back and was like, no, this is what I've called you to do. He's like, listen, you're going to continue to do great work, Saving the City, all of these things. But now it's time for people to come to know who you are as a person. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, that terrified me, okay? I was so afraid of doing, this is just a manifestation of all of that, But being in front of people, I was like, no. Y'all, I kept saying no. And I never forget, Holy Spirit took me to the book of Genesis. And y'all, some of y'all may know the story of Abraham. But before his name was Abraham, his name was Abram. And so God had told Abram, he said, listen, I'm getting ready to take you to a land that you do not know. You got to leave your father's house. And I'm going to make you the father of, I'm paraphrasing, y'all. He said, I'm going to make you the father of many nations. But another thing that he told him, he said, hey, I'm going to make your name great. He told Abraham, he said, I'm going to make your name great. And so in that moment, y'all, I'm balling on my couch. on my floor in my living room. He said, Brittany, I'm going to make your name great. And I was like, oh, no. I was like, abort, mission abort. He says the same way I told Abram that I was going to make his name great, I'm going to make your name great. Because when people know your name, then they're going to be introduced to my name. And I was just like, oh no, y'all. And so in that moment, what God was looking for was he was looking for me to surrender. And I'm telling you that story because for many of you, I believe that it's in a moment in your life right now where it's time for you to do the same thing. What you have to do when you feel a call to go to that next level or to that next place is, one, you got to do what I did. You got to first acknowledge that a lot of times what's holding us back is fear. F-E-A-R. Fear. You got to be honest about the fact that you have not moved forward yet, even if you know you're being called in a certain season or a certain direction. It's because you are afraid. And I had to, in that moment, face the fact that I was afraid. I was afraid of being rejected. This is what I used to say, y'all. I used to say, people in the world are mean. I am naturally a very gentle-hearted person, and people in the world can be cruel. So my answer to that was not to show up in the world. But how would people know that everybody in the world is not that way if people who do have a light and people who do have love don't show up to show people that there's something else that the world has to offer, right? But I didn't see it that way. I was just thinking about myself. And many times that's what happens. Many of us are being hindered from operating in our full purpose because you're making it about you. And it's not about you. You are a part of something that is so much bigger than you. How you know what your purpose is? Because I know a lot of people always ask me, like, Brittany, how do you know your purpose? I don't know what my purpose is. One, I've learned everything. First of all, you were sent here and created on purpose. But I've learned in my life, usually what I don't want to do is usually what I'm supposed to do. Usually what makes me a little uncomfortable or a whole lot uncomfortable, like doing this podcast, y'all, that usually what takes you out of your comfort zone is a direction you're supposed to go in. Your purpose and promise is on the other side of whatever you are afraid of. And I don't want you to live your whole life and you look back one day and said, man, I wonder if this could have happened or that could have happened if I just would have moved in the direction of what I thought I would be afraid of, right? So that's the first thing I want to tell you today is, in order for you to stop hiding, in order for you to begin to show up authentically and to do what I was challenged to do, to begin to step over and step up. First of all, before I even talk about fear, let me ask you this. What are you hiding behind? I'm still here, just waiting for you to respond as you're listening. What is that thing that you've been hiding behind? For me, I hid behind my work. For me, I hid behind other people. For me, I hid behind, the applause. I hid behind those things. I want you to identify, what have you been hiding behind? What is that thing that you've been saying, okay, like how I was, I'll put this in front, but as long as people really don't see me, or I don't really have to, face my insecurities or my inadequacies, what are those things? So that's the first thing I want you to do. The second thing I want you to do is identify, what are you afraid of? First, you got to acknowledge fear, right? Don't sugarcoat it. Don't excuse it away. Fear is fear. I am afraid. I'm afraid to take that next step. I'm afraid to start the business. I'm afraid to really show up on social media. I'm afraid to really give my life to Christ. Whatever that thing is, you got to acknowledge there is fear there. The next thing you got to do is acknowledge, what are you afraid of? right? Because I believe when we really sit down and really acknowledge what we're afraid of, it's actually not as big as what we thought it was, right? It's actually not, when you really, because a lot of times we just, oh no, I'm not going to do that. Oh, y'all know how we do. We don't really hold ourselves accountable. We just keep on. But when I really began to sit down, I had to be honest with myself. Y'all know we talked about that. We building something here. I had to say, man, I'm afraid. I told God I'm crying on my floor, y'all. And I said, man, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what people are going to say about me. If I put, like, what if I put myself out there and somebody be like, who she thinks she is? Y'all know how we do all of those things in my mind, in our minds, that doubt, that fear, that self-sabotaging, all of that stuff that we have to manage in our heads and manage in our hearts. I had to sit with that, you all. And I had to come to the place where I realized that, Brittany, you have something to offer. And I want to tell somebody that's listening to me right now, you may be that person that's maybe been the one that's been misunderstood, or the one that's always been the oddball, or the one that felt like you were always in someone else's shadows. You, not your sister, not your brother, not your friend. I'm talking to you. You have something that the world needs. You have something special in you. You carry an answer. You carry a solution. You carry something of value. You carry something of significance. Your story, your experiences, your gifts, your talents, the things about you that make you weird, and all of those things that the world has said about you. The world needs that. But you have to begin to see that in yourself and begin to own that, right? And so I had to begin to sit with that. And once I really realized, and it was so crazy, you all, because I would go places. I didn't know I had like a gift of like speaking and connecting with people, because I was doing what came natural to me. That's how you know when something is a gift, because you don't even think about it. You go into a room and you automatically see that thing is highlighted, because God has wired you for that, to be an answer for that. And so I didn't realize I had a gift of connecting with people. But when I would go places, or every time I would kind of say a little bit, people would respond. And I'd be like, it was like a little superpower. And then I would sit down like, okay, wait, what just happened? And then the next time I'll get up and I'll maybe, say something. And then people will come up to me and say, oh my God, that really helped me. And I'm like, what? Like, y'all know in the movies when you're kind of looking at your hands like, okay, is this really me? That was what was going on. But God was trying to show me, Brittany, this is your gift. I've called you to connect with people. I've called you to empower people. I've called you to love people, to help them to see themselves in ways they hadn't seen before. And so I had to begin to understand that, because I think for a lot of us, we downplay our significance. I feel this so strong, y'all. A lot of us are downplaying our gifts. We're saying, oh no, there's nothing special. Anybody can do that. No, can't nobody else. And yes, that's right. I'm using Ebonics because it's real in here, okay? Can't nobody else do what you do the way you do it. Can't no one else sing how you sing, write how you write, cook how you cook, dance how you dance. There's no one else in the world that's like you. That's what makes you special. That's what makes you unique. And that, as you show up in that, guess what that's going to do? That's going to give somebody else freedom to be themselves, right? And so it was only when I began to see that in myself, and I got to the place where I was like, you know what? I may not be for everybody. This podcast is not going to be for everybody. Somebody going to say, girl, I don't know what she's talking about. Somebody else going to say she talked too fast. Somebody else may say she's too animated. But for those of you who is for, I know y'all listening to this like, yeah, that's right. Because you are my people. Because you are the ones that I am for. And so I want to tell you out there that are listening and watching this, you are for somebody. But they aren't going to be able to find you, and you aren't going to be able to find them if you don't take the next step forward. If you don't, let me go back to the beginning of my story. If you don't step over and then step up so that you can be seen. I get it. Me being seen is still uncomfortable for me. But I can't allow the excuse of what's uncomfortable to keep me from operating in my purpose, and neither can you. I am literally doing this scared, y'all. You can't wait until the fear leaves before you take that next move. There are going to be things in your life that are going to bring the greatest fulfillment and the greatest purpose and alignment in your life that you're literally going to have to do afraid and scared. And after the fact, you're going to be like, not doing it before, you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm so glad I did that. That's what I'm believing for you, okay? And so that's what I wanted to talk about today with this podcast, because I feel like there's a lot of you all, God is nudging you. He's calling you. He's pulling you the same way he did for me in that living room. And let me tell you this, y'all. It took 2 years. I had that whole episode in my living room, snotting, crying, and rolling around the floor. I knew the word that God had given me. I knew the instructions, step up and step over. But guess what I tried to do? I tried to do it my way. Because that's how we usually try to do. We'll get something and say, okay, cool, I'll do it like this. Oh, no, ma'am. No, sir. Fast forward, the pandemic hits. And, you know, we didn't know it was a pandemic at the time, right? Y'all remember it started and we thought, oh, it'll be over in a couple of days or a couple of weeks. That did not happen. And I never forget, you all, for Saving the City, we did a 7-day prayer. Like, it was on my heart just to pray, because we didn't know what was going on. People's lives were being impacted, and families and jobs and entrepreneurs weren't working. And so I just had this burden to pray. And so day 5 of our prayer was for entrepreneurs, right? At the time, I didn't really look at myself as an entrepreneur. I was leading a nonprofit, child. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to pray for entrepreneurs because I have a heart for people. So we do the prayer, we do the Zoom, and y'all, it is powerful. Like, hundreds of business owners are on this Zoom. I'm speaking into their lives. I'm praying over their businesses. And afterwards, it was like this supernatural encounter, right? I look up at our office. We had just moved into the office, and again, y'all, I cry a lot, if y'all don't already know. I'm like, Lord, Brittany, all you talk about on these podcasts is crying. Well, that's how I have become, because I cry a lot and a lot of other stuff. But I'm literally like crying, y'all, and I look up in my office, and God was like, you remember what I told you about stepping up and stepping over? It's time. It's time. And y'all, I didn't want to step into that. Because you can't step into something new without it costing you something old. I knew that I was going to have to walk away from some stuff that I love to go into this next chapter of what God was calling me to show up in the world. And that scared me. I looked at our office. We had just moved into the office. And y'all, I was so sad. But I gave God a yes there. I believe for many of you, it's time to make a new surrender. It's time for you to say, you know what? I've been trying to do this on my own. I've been, I had a little revelation here, a little word here, but you have to fully let go of what you thought your life was going to look like. You have to fully let go of how you thought things were going to play out. You have to let go of that. Because truth be told, you're not in control anyway. You are not. There's nothing in this world that you can control. And many of us are managing all this pressure and stress and tension because you're trying so hard to make stuff work and make stuff fit. Just release and say, okay, God, if you want this to look different, if you want to move me to a new city, if you want me to start a new career, if you want me to take this to the next level, I will do it. I don't even know what I'm doing. But yes, I will go. Y'all, that was like in March of 2020. Fast forward to July. Whew, y'all, I was stressed, okay? Like, your girl was going through it because a transition was happening in my life. I started to pray, like, God, what are you doing? And then in like the second week of July, he says, you're getting ready to move. I'm getting ready to take you to a new city, and I'm getting ready to do a new thing in your life. And by that time, because from March to July, I had been crying the whole time, child. So I was ready by that time. I had gotten to the end of myself. And I believe that for some people listening and watching this podcast right now, a lot of stuff has had to happen in your life so that you can get to the end of yourself. So that there was no more fight in you, because some of us just been fighting. You've been looking like this, just fighting the air, fighting it, because you didn't want to do certain things. But your purpose, that thing that you're being called to do, mine is doing this. Yours may look like doing something else. Oh, baby, let me tell you, it is going to be tight, but it's going to be right, okay? And so I did that. I leaned into that difficult place. I leaned into the unfamiliar. And y'all, that signed me up for a new journey that, y'all, I don't even have the words to describe it. It hasn't been easy. There was a lot of grief with my transition. There's been a lot of long nights. But literally, y'all, I am now doing things that I never thought that I could do. Showing up on social media? Oh, no, ma'am. No, sir. That was not me. Telling my story, being so I've always been a real transparent person, but being so authentic with the things that I've struggled with in hopes to encourage somebody else, I never thought I could do those things. Starting a whole podcast, I never thought I could do those things. But I'm finally coming to a place where I'm getting the courage, right, to say I can do this. And I'm getting the courage and I'm doing this so that I can help you to have another reminder that you can do this. Again, I want to go back to what is that thing or those things that you've been feeling that tug to say, man, it's time. And you've been giving excuses for, or, oh, y'all know how we do. Oh, I got to wait until I have this amount of money, or I got to wait until this happens. That perfect time is not going to happen. It's not. Many times you'll feel that tug in a season where stuff not adding up. It doesn't make sense. And you're like, I got to go where? I need to do what? With who? That's your place of purpose. And so I want to encourage you to lean into that place. Lean into what feels uncomfortable right now. I want you to challenge yourself to begin to see yourself the way God sees you. There is so much in you. You haven't even scraped the surface of your gifts. You haven't, for some of you, literally, it's like you've been afraid of your own voice. I know that's been my story. Y'all, sometimes it's so hard for me to even hear myself talk. But you know what? I'm not letting that keep me from sharing my story. I'm going to keep on sharing it, right? Because I know it's going to help someone. Same thing with you. You have no idea how many people's lives are going to be impacted by your contribution, by your vision, by your dream. But get this, by your life. By your life. How people are going to, and they already are. But as you take that next step right now that feels so scary and so unknown and you don't know, take it. Because you don't know what that's getting ready to open up for you. Doors of opportunity, relationships, so many things are on the other side of that fear. Fear is, well, I would say it's a liar, but there is some truth to it. Because you're a whole problem out here in these streets. Like, you are a whole big deal. And the enemy, because y'all know there is a real enemy out there, he would not be fighting you. He would not be messing with your mind. He would not be trying to put all of these distractions in your path if there was not something that was prominent and a purpose that was before you. So today, as we are closing out episode 3 of our podcast called Stop Hiding, I want you to identify what is going to be your next step after this podcast. I do not want you getting out. Listen, don't make the mama in me come out, okay? Or the auntie in me come out. Don't click over here and be like, oh, that was good. No. I want you to get serious about this thing, okay? If I can do this, you can do this. If I am doing this, you are going to do this, whatever your this is. But I want you to identify, make the next step. Maybe that's like me. Let me give you a quick story, and then I'm promise y'all know how preachers be. They say they're gonna close 3 times, so give me a little grace. The studio that I'm in right now recording this, I reached out to them a year and a half ago to do this podcast. They were so nice, y'all, and responded immediately. And guess what? I never responded. A year and a half later, one of my good friends said, a week before my birthday, she said, where's the podcast? Y'all felt so convicted because I'm the pusher in my group. I'm the, what you doing, what you working on. But when you get a little dose of what you give everybody else, it will humble you, okay? And I went and searched for this studio and looked up at it. And I said, Brittany, and I said, it's never too late. I picked the next day, it was late at night. The next day, I picked up the phone. I called them. It didn't matter that it was a year and a half later. It didn't matter that you put that dream down 5 years ago, 5 months ago, 10 years ago, 15. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you're picking it back up now and you're moving forward with it. Y'all, I feel feel so strong about this. That's why I keep trying to move on and let it go. But I feel so strong about this. I feel that as I'm talking to you right now, that you're getting courage, that you're saying, I can do this. I will do this. I'm not going to allow past mistakes and past failures and hiccups to keep me from moving forward. I can do this. Because you can and you will. So I want you to share whatever that next step is. Hey, put it in your phone. Share it with an accountability partner. Put it somewhere and put a date with it, because I want you to look back over the next 6 months and look at your progress over the next year and say, man, I'm going to mark this day today that I heard this podcast, I heard this story, or tuned into this on YouTube and said, this was the day that I made a decision that I was going to step over, just a little step, baby step, because that's all it takes. And I'm going to step up and I'm going to move forward in what I know that I'm called to do. All right. Whew. Woosah, everybody. Woosah. Come on. Let's do it real quick. Let's breathe. Breathe in. Breathe out. You got this. You got this. You're doing an amazing job. And this next chapter is about to blow your mind. Thank y'all so much for tuning in for another episode 3, wow, of the Becoming Brittany podcast, where we come together to journey to become our very best selves. Y'all know how we do. Be sure to, once you get off the floor, because you probably going to have your floor moment too, you know what I'm saying? Once you get yourself together, be sure to share this podcast, share this episode with someone you love, share it on your social media, go share it with somebody, be a blessing to someone else. And I cannot wait until we're able to come together again for our next episode. Y'all, I love you. As I always tell you, I'm so proud of you. You're doing it. You're showing up and you're doing it. And if no one else has told you, I'm proud of you and I see you and I believe in you and you are going to do it. No more hiding. We're showing up as our authentic selves. And through that, we are going to change the world together. Love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in.